Namaste, my name is Naomi and welcome to a roughly 30-minute yin session on all things releasing the hips and releasing potentially any sadness held within the hips. So obviously with all things pelvic bowl work that I do, I find that a lot of people have a lot of tension held within their hips and within their pelvic bowl, and I'm often asked about any exercises, any support that they can do to support themselves to release anything held there. And within my work, within the yoni massage work that I do, I find that there's always a lot of held tension. It doesn't matter whether you think that you are easy and breezy within your pelvic bowl, there's definitely always something held there, and a lot of the time it can be held. Sadness, sometimes shame, fear, is all those kind of lower themes that can be held within the hip area and within the pelvic bowl. So this short yin session, where we're going to take it really slow and ease into the hips, is going to help to release anything, not everything, but anything that's ready to be released from that area. So in order to be part of the session, then I would suggest grabbing a pile of pillows or bolster if you have one. Blocks are useful if you have them. Blankets are also great if you have them. And a wall somewhere that you can use we're going to have one pose at the wall. So there's no rush. You can find yourself here whenever you're ready. You can pause me for as long as you need to grab whatever it is that you need in order to partake in this slower release that we're going to be engaging with today. So the first thing that we're going to do is just find ourselves landing here on the mat. So coming with a neutral gaze, or if you feel as though you're ready, you can close your eyes, depends on where you're practicing. If we're practicing in a space that we know really well, then the body can settle down quicker and the nervous system feels that it's safer to close their eyes. But if you feel like this isn't a space that you engage with often, or perhaps you've had a bit of feng shui recently, then it can take longer to feel that safety within the nervous system. So just really feeling into what you're ready for at this point within the practice. So just coming into a seated position, finding yourself with your shoulders relaxed, finding your spine straight, your head lifted, and just whenever you're ready, taking in a long, deep breath in through the nose, down to the belly, and exhaling out of the mouth, maybe with an audible sound, settling down. And another in your own time. Feeling your sit bones relax onto the earth below. And last one, really extending the out breath and maybe beginning to bring circles into the neck, maybe rolling around from one side to the other. I'm not going to necessarily give you instructions here because you just need to feel into what feels good for you, because that is what we're going to be doing within the yin session today. It's just like feeling into the nooks and the crannies and tuning into the body. What is it that the body is ready for today? Remembering to inhale and exhale as you do this. Really feeling in. Maybe looking over your shoulders, just really warming up the top of your head, the neck, the shoulders are relaxed. And then maybe beginning circles with the torso, inhaling forward, exhaling round, curving the back, inhaling forward, exhaling, curving the back, almost like this cat-cow effect here as you circle, going one way, whichever way you were called for to go first. There's no right or wrong. And just remembering the breath and really beginning to feel into the flow. And you can close your eyes if you feel you can and you want to. You can remain in a neutral gaze. Really feeling the flow here, like you're just flowing around. And already we're beginning to open up the hips here. Feeling this stretch in the spine. And then going the other way, remembering inhaling forward, exhaling back. And then just coming into the neutral center. Okay, so with yin, what we're really doing is working with the fascia. We're really working to release that fascia holding. And the fascia is essentially all over our bodies and holds in organs, muscle fibers. It's the connective tissue. And there's been a lack of research, perhaps, let's say, in the medical field over fascia, because it's easy to cut through the skin and the fascia and get to the good bit, so to speak, the organs and the muscles. But now we're really starting to realize that the fascia has a huge role to play. And in fact, the fascia, if we start to work it out, and I always think of the fascia as cling film, or if you're in America, we call it their saran wrap, from what I gather. And the cling film saran wrap is all crumpled on top of water. And what we're doing is we're allowing it to spread and stretch, to come out and become flat. But as we're doing that, we're doing it in a way that means that that cling film or the saran wrap doesn't sink under the water. So it's a gentle stretch out, so gentle. And so when you're engaging in the yin yoga today, what you're really thinking about is how you're going to be moving into these poses in a really gentle way and allowing gravity to do its work. There's no pushing or pulling here. It's simply allowing your body to relax into the pose. And as you do that, that subtle movement will allow for the fascia to basically simply uncrumble from the water that it's lying on. And I always like to think of the fascia as this holding. It's the bed, it's the riverbed, so to speak, and it's holding in all the water. And as the water needs to be directed, it needs to be directed to flow beautifully throughout our bodies. And we have plenty of research to show how water has memory and holds on to patterns within it. And so what we're really starting to realize is how the fascia holds on to emotions and memories, woundings and traumas that have occurred throughout our lifetime and others' lifetimes that we're holding on to. And so then what we're doing is we're really allowing for the fascia to move and open, and as we do so, we're allowing the water to flow in the direction that it really needs to flow in. The riverbed is adjusting as the water flows, as we're adjusting the riverbed through the movements that we're doing. And then what can happen and what can surface in memories or feelings, sometimes it's indescribable, which is why then sometimes there's this relief of tears and sadness for so many, because it's just a holding pattern that's within the body, and we're allowing it to move. And as we allow it to move, the river suddenly flows in a different direction, maybe slightly, moves in a slightly different way. And it just really is that relief of relieving the fascia holding pattern that can create a lot of tension within the body. So that's why yin is such a beautiful practice. And you can practice yin at any point, at any stage during the day. Let's try and think about the little joys and pleasures that come with life and make time maybe within the middle of the day for a yin yoga session. It doesn't necessarily need to be at the dark dead of night before bedtime. It can be at any point within your day. And finding that space, that spaciousness for your mind and your body is such medicine, such beautiful medicine that you can use for yourself. So the first pose that we're going to do is against the wall. So finding yourself against the wall. And we're going to lie down. So you might want to move your mat. I'm just going to move the bolsters here. Moving your mat, moving yourself towards the wall. You might want to get a blanket even for your head. There's no too many props that you can use today if you need them to make yourself comfortable. So maybe you add a blanket to your head. And you're going to find yourself at the wall. You're going to move yourself so that you are positioned close to the wall, as close to the wall as you can go. You're going to lie down, coming back onto your mat, and we're going to engage in pigeon pose, but against the wall. So you're going to bring your right leg horizontal to the wall. And for me, I'm like, oh, I need to get my bottom a bit nearer. I have got very long legs, so sometimes it's a challenge with my legs. So you're going to have your right leg at the wall, positioned here, and if there's anything that's too much on your knees, then know you can come out of the pose at any point. You're going to bring your left leg up and not on the kneecap, but on the thigh bone here. You're going to engage the left foot to protect the knee here, and what you're going to be doing is opening up the hips as you would in pigeon pose. You're going to be in a position here. You can have your arms either side, palms up to receive. And essentially what you're doing is within this pose, you're releasing the held tension, any held tension within the hips. And rather than doing it on the mat, you're allowing the wall to support you here. And we're just going to lie here in this position for a moment. And if you feel like you want to go deeper at any point, then you can simply adjust yourself. You could come out slightly. You could bring your bottom a little closer if you need to, so that you are closer. You could just make sure that you're really engaging that right foot on the wall and just allowing that stretch. But as you lie here, you'll feel yourself deepening in, maybe closing the eyes, maybe neutral gaze, and just breathing here. Maybe using Ujjayi breathing, constricting the back of the throat. And really thinking how you're directing that breath into the hip here as you breathe. keeping the shoulders away from the ears, the crown lifted, the chin lifted slightly so that you can feel a stretch in the back of the neck. Maybe as you did that, you felt a difference in the stretch in your hip. I know that I did just then, reminding myself to lift my chin and straighten my neck. And finding yourself sinking deeper into Mother Earth. And on the next inhale, inhale to switch legs, inhale coming out, allowing that leg to rest, the left leg onto the wall, and bringing the right leg across and finding yourself back in pigeon, this time on the other side. And you may need to adjust your body, making sure that you're keeping your hips level, feeling that stretch. Does it feel any different on this side to the other side? Does it feel like there's more holding here or less? Really finding yourself sinking in again, breathing here, maybe using Ujjayi breathing. And just did a really great sigh, which is just a sign of the body relaxing down and moving the energy, and remembering, of course, that the right foot is flexed to protect the knee. Using the breath, directing it into the hips, really sinking. Although this is a very relaxing pose, this is also very active in that you're flexing your foot and you're allowing your body to sink in. With yin, it can sometimes be harder to engage in the poses because our mind's forever in that monkey mind at times, busy, and having to focus on one pose for longer can be more of a challenge. So if your mind wanders, just bringing it back to the breath, back to the presence. I like to call it pelvic presence. When we come back to the pelvis area, pelvic presence is so important and so necessary. And on the next inhale, lifting up and coming out slowly. And then you can find yourself rolling to one side and just remaining here for a moment on your one side, whichever side that you came to. Now your next inhale, just allowing the feet to move and wiggle, and coming up And perhaps like me, you need to move your mat back to them wherever, or you could just stay where you are. But for the purposes of the video that I'm recording for you today, I'm going to move my mat back. Okay, what we're going to come into next is finding ourselves seated on the mat. And we're going to come into a wide-legged forward fold. Now, for this, what we're going to make sure that we do is we're going to allow us to sink into this deeply, but slowly, as we were earlier with the use of the wall. Now, if you have blocks, then great. If you have a bolster, then great. Or you can use pillows here. And you can find yourself with the blocks. There's no right or wrong here. You know, a bit like Jenga, you know, doing what you need to do in order to make it work. Maybe that this would be too high for you. I've got my blocks with one horizontal and one vertical leaning on it. Maybe that's too high. Maybe you come down flat and it's like this. Placing my bolster over my Jenga pile here in front of me. Maybe you just have more pillows. And what we're going to do is we're going to find ourselves just allowing the legs to come wide, moving to the bolster, and we're going to come into a position. I'm just going to plug in my mic. I'm going to come into a position here that allows us to sink in. Now for me, that still is too low for me to sink in slowly. So I'm going to grab this other bolster that I've got here. And I'm going to double it up. I mean, it seems a lot, but for me, that would be a really great way of sinking in slowly. So we're going to come to a wide-legged position here. And then we're going to find ourselves just coming down onto the bolster. Flexing the feet, stretching down, and coming in to the stretch. And if you can reach your toes, but that's not necessary. If you feel like you can just reach your shin bone, then great. You can take them as wide as you feel is comfortable. And we're just going to allow ourselves this time to sink in. First and foremost, with the cushions. I'm just going to rub out my third eye here. Really allowing myself into the position. Breathing in. Loosening the jaw, because the jaw is connected directly to the pelvic bowl, to the yoni area. Shoulders relaxed. Now we're going to remove one of the bolsters. Well, I am, it depends on where you are. Maybe you can remove one of your cushions and just come down even further. I'm going to adjust my block. And just allow myself to reach further down. I'm now able to bring in touch to my toes. Whatever you're able to do, whatever's in whatever's accessible for you today. Relaxing the shoulders, keeping the shoulders relaxed. On the next inhale, coming out. And one last extension down. I'm going to remove the bolster here and find myself in a position where I'm coming down onto the blocks. I'm going to add in one blanket over my blocks. This is all the adjustments you can make for yourself. Make it as accessible as you possibly can. No one wins prizes when they're at home watching a video on YouTube or wherever it is on yoga for being the most flexible. There's never prizes anyway, maybe in a gymnastic scenario. In a competition, there's no competition. So just really finding yourself comfy. Perfect. Now my head is touching. I'm just adjusting my legs even wider at this point now because I'm really releasing that area in my hips and I'm able to allow them to go wider, which allows me to sink further down. On the next inhale to come up. Shaking out the legs, really allowing yourself to move, maybe bring them together, maybe shaking them as you need. There's no too much, you cannot shake too much here, just to allow them to come out. Okay, so the next pose that we're going to do, and in fact I'm going to have a drink of water because I want to encourage as much water drinking as possible. So if you haven't had a water break yet, then please do have a water break, because as you release the fascia, then it really means that you need to be replenishing the water in your body, just really flushing through any toxins, anything that's coming to the surface. So lots of water. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is pigeon pose on the mat. So we're going to find ourselves on the mat here, moving into pigeon, again with any props that we need to use. So I've got a block here that's going to go underneath my buttock here. So the first thing is we're going to bring our left leg horizontal at the front of the mat, flexing the left foot, releasing ourselves back here. I'm just going to move my bolsters. Releasing my right leg, back onto the mat and finding a block here to support myself underneath the hip so that I can have that bit of support just to begin with as we move into it. We want level hips, so really supporting yourself here to find those level hips. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow for a block to come here in front, and then I'm going to grab myself this blanket, popping it just over the top as I need to come in to forward fold. So horizontal with the mat, block is behind me here, flexing the left foot and coming down onto my elbows and relaxing my head, my forehead, so that it's here on the floor. Breathing down, inviting you to use as much as you need. Maybe you have a bolster here, maybe you have 2 blocks here, whatever needs to happen. Exercising Ujjayi breathing. I'm now going to flatten my block so that it becomes flat now on the floor and coming down again. I'm going to remove this block from underneath my hip and find the difference there. On the next inhale, inhaling to lift out, flexing the right foot at the back to lift up, pushing yourself, and then maybe you need to waggle it out, stretching back, whatever you need to do, just relaxing that leg, the left leg that was flexed into pigeon. And then you're going to bring the right leg forward, again flexing the right foot. And I'm going to use the block again, this time under my left hip, of course. And then I'm going to find myself with my head relaxing. This time I'm going to adjust the block again, remembering that when I first started I had it lifted. So I'm going to go back to that. And I'm going to relax down into the position. Feeling in to this side, how it feels different, adjusting as I need. Keeping the hips so that they're level. Relaxing the shoulders. I'm going to move the block so that it's flat now, so that I can allow myself deeper into the stretch. And just allowing for anything that's coming through to come through, any emotions that may be arising for you. And as you do so, feel the holding of Mother Earth below you, how she holds you, props you up, supports you here in this space, bringing in that love, that support, that holding from her. Know that you're so held and so loved. Really feeling her presence. I'm going to remove the block from my hip. Inhaling, lifting up, flexing the left leg, foot here, pushing up, coming out, stretching the right foot back just as you need to do, maybe giving it a wiggle, and coming here into child's pose just for a moment. And you can use yourself a blanket or a block as you do. Maybe your cheeks to the side, but just really giving yourself this space to find release into the hips. And as you do so, placing the hands palm side onto the earth and really feeling the heartbeat of Mother Earth today. How she beats, and how she reminds us that she's always there, moving through her cycles and any emotions. And remembering your child's pose can be knees together or it can be wide. I've just taken mine wider actually. I feel like that's what I need. So whatever you need. And feeling the beat of Mother Earth. How at times she blows through with those strong winds and torrential rain as a clearing. And clearing for the next day. Reminds us of how cyclical we are with our emotions. And then coming up, we're going to come on to our backs, and we're just going to allow ourselves just to roll. So maybe just bringing yourself up and then rolling back. I don't know about you, but I just love stretching out my back midway through when you've been moving your back forward. And just rolling it out, maybe coming, watching the neck as you do. And then coming into a hug, hugging the knees in, maybe rocking here from side to side, really allowing the back to release before we do one final pose with this hip opening sequence. So coming up, and we're going to come up into seated position, and we're going to bring our feet together, and what we're going to do is we're going to come into butterfly position. So with this, you may want to have a block either side. You maybe have cushions that you can use, but essentially we want to create that lift. So I'm just going to place a blanket here and a blanket here. I'm just going to allow my back to remain straight, crown lifted, and just really feeling into gravity doing its work. Maybe lifting the flesh away from the sit bones, and allowing yourself just to be in this final pose. And as you do so, feeling the hips relax even further. And for some of us, we may not need to use any props, and we can be allowing our joints will hit the floor with ease. Everyone is just so different when it comes to this and what their needs are. So just really being with your own needs today is super powerful and beautiful and so needed. Tuning back in to what your body is asking for. Maybe Ujjayi breathing again, maybe just inhaling and exhaling. I'm now going to remove the blankets and come onto the blocks directly. And I think that's going to be it as far as I can go with today's butterfly. So just feeling into where you can go to today. Again, with that neutral gaze or eyes closed, crown lifted, shoulders away from the ears, jaw loose. And on the next inhale, inhaling to come out, slowly bringing the knees together. Maybe again, allowing them to wiggle out in front of you. One final thing I was going to bring in, if you felt called to, was to use a ball to release the fascia in the hip area here in the front. I've got 2 balls here, so just before we come into that child's pose, there's 2 balls here. One is actually from a yoga company, and the other one is a lacrosse ball. You can use a tennis ball, you can use any balls that you have around. And just one final thing that I'd love you to engage with, if you ever fancy, so I'm just going to show you how to do it. We won't necessarily have to do it now, but maybe after this, it's something that you can, you might fancy engaging with. So I'm just going to come onto my hip area here, and I'm going to lean onto the ball, and I'm just really going to feel into where feels good. And what I'm holding on for feeling is where it feels like a dull ache. So it's kind of, it's not stabbing because that's too much, but like a dull ache. And so I'm just going to allow myself to feel into that area, and right there feels really great. And what you would do is you would hold that for like 2 minutes, if not longer. You could hold this for 11 minutes. There's no limit on how long you can hold it for, but you know, trying to hold on for it for a couple of minutes and just really allowing yourself to release into that area. And then you could do the same again on the other side. Just notice how I've literally just allowed my knee in this position with my leg just folded here, and then you can swap positions and do it the other way. Or maybe you do it where you're lying down and you start to feel in to the areas around here. You can start to just move the ball around. Maybe you need to go into the buttocks more, just feeling into where fascia's all over the body, so you can do this wherever you need to do, and just holding areas. Like for me, I've just found an area there, feels like a bit of a dull ache that could use that nourishment. So you breathe into that area. And so just finding yourself with the ball wherever. You can even do it in the hips area on your side here. So you could get into the side area and find yourself really feeling in, allowing your hands to support, and then coming down when you found an area that feels good to be released, and just really feeling into that. So that's something that you can do if ever you feel called. So just ending today's practice in child's pose, so coming into the mat and allowing yourself to come down, maybe with a bolster, and you can remain here after the video has finished for as long as you need, breathing in, finding release, thanking yourself for taking this time to be in this space, thanking Mother Earth for her holding today, and just bringing in a little extra love. Final couple of deep breaths in through the nose, exhaling, and again inhaling, exhaling. I'm going to leave you in this position, loving you. Thank you so much for being here. Namaste.